Echoes through each life halls. Why does she alone remember what even gods have forgotten? She is not reborn, she is rewound, a prisoner of the first's dying breath before the sundering. Each life a failed prophecy, each death a reset. The light's final memory loops in her bones, but one name scars her silence. Venat. Begins her a endless failed prophecy, each death. The oracle's visions do not guide destiny, they are its cage. The sundering was not chaos, it was a prison. 14 shards of Aetheres, not to sever Zodiac, but to shatter Hydaelyn's will into manageable lies. The oracle guards the last truth, her visions are not guidance, but the same era replayed. Each age the same false dawn. Each rejoining the same hollow victory. The final days are not an end, they are a loop. The ancients, their memories bleached by shard-born lies, relive the first's mistakes while she alone remembers his final scream. What if the rejoining is not salvation, but the mechanism of the trap? What if every prophecy is a chain? The oracle does not foresee the future, she endures its repetition. And in this cage of light, Hydaelyn's soul drowns, forgotten even by the gods she once called brothers. The oracle does not die, she fractures. Each new body a shattered mirror, each vision a shard of Hydaelyn's final scream as the first fell. In the seekers of the sun, her whispers fracture a light bending around time's blade. What if her prophecies are not warnings but elegies? What if every cycle ends in the same silent scream, the same hollow dawn? Venat chose to become Hydaelyn not to fight Zodiac, but to carry the weight of the first's last truth. That survival demands surrender. The oracle's loop is no prison, it is a sacrament. A soul stretched across eons, stitching the fabric of Erzea with threads of a memory even the second cannot bear. Her visions burn not with hope, but with the certainty of a truth too vast for mortal minds. The final days are not a battle. They are a requiem, and the oracle dances endlessly in its final stanza. Her death is not an end, it is a pause. A breath between verses, and in that breath the light forgets how to shine. The mother crystal glows, its light a fractured prism casting jagged shadows. Hydaelyn's voice hums through the air, low as a bell toll. I need proof the sundered could stand without me. The words hang heavy as drowning, the crystal's pulse slows. Fissures crawl across its surface, each crack a hairline wound. The air chills, a scent like ozone rises sharp metallic. The warrior's breath fogs, allies flinch. The oracle does not, her radiance dims, not in defeat but in release. She has done this before, the fissures deepen. 1,000 echoes vibrate in the silence. She feels the weight of cycles past 1,000 deaths, 1,000 resets. Each time the light's last memory sears into her core. The first's final gasp, the sundering scream, the prison of rebirth, this is not sacrifice. It is a plea to be unbound, to let the light forget, to let her forget. The crystal shatters, not with sound but absence. A void where light once was, the warrior reaches but the moment dissolves. Time bends, the oracle's form flickers outline then ash. She watches herself fade, a wick snuffed in a storm. Each reset the prison tightens, each cycle the memory sharpens. The light's final breath is her first, its last, its only. The scene refractions a hall of mirrors. In each she stands at this same threshold. In each she utters the same lie, proof. The word tastes of iron. She knows the sundered will fail, she knows the cycle will turn. Yet she speaks, because to break the loop she must first become the wound. The darkness swallows her, a pause, a breath. And in that breath the oracle holds the first's last light, dying to keep it alive, dying to let it die. The oracle's chamber hums with the static of 1,000 failed endings. Cold stone presses against her knees. A brazier's embers gutter, casting shadows that writhe like remembered regrets. The air reeks of myrrh and rust scents of a war long since calcified into ritual. She traces the relic before her, its edges softened by centuries of weeping. It is not a crystal. It is a asterisk shard asterisk splintered from something greater, something asterisk alive asterisk. The warrior of light stands at the threshold, their gauntlet brushing the hilt of a blade that once cleaved Azim's soul. A warmth blooms under their armor, subtle as a heartbeat in the ribs. The shard at their core glows faintly, not with light, but with asterisk absence, asterisk a hollow where a god's final breath should have been. They do not know what they carry, no one does. The oracle's voice trembles. You feel it, don't you? The weight of 1,000 deaths. The warrior pauses, their fingers tighten. A memory flickers, a chamber like this, a voice like that, a hand extended in the same way. Asterisk, this isn't the first time I've stood here. It can't be. Asterisk, the shard pulses, the brazier flares. For a moment the walls dissolve. The oracle's countless pasts collapse into one, a convocation of desperate gods, a pact forged in the marrow of a dying world. Azem's soul split not to destroy but to asterisk preserve asterisk. The warrior is no hero. They are the thread, the bridge, the wound kept open so the first's last truth might seep into the next age. The oracle bows her head. The myrrh grows bitter, the warrior's warmth is a curse, a key, a ghost's last gift. She has waited cycles to meet her savior. She has waited cycles to realize he is the reason she cannot die. Word count 336. The oracle's loop is no divine cycle, it is a mechanism. Venat forged it to hold the first's final breath, a memory of Aetheri's whole, before the sundering cleaved it into 14. Each iteration of her prophecy was a failed attempt to mend what Venat could not. The shards were never meant to coexist, they were trials. The ancients, bound to mortal flesh, forced to choose between survival and the truth. Zodiarc's severance was not punishment, it was the ignition. The oracle's voice does not echo through time, it is a single cry, repeated. The first's last warning trapped in Venat's design, asterisk, the sundered will forget. The sundered must remember, asterisk, she is not a guardian of balance, she is the last echo of a god who refused to let go. Her visions are not guidance, they are a looped incantation, trying to reweave what the sundering shattered. Now, the warrior's presence fractures the pattern. Not as savior but as proof that the shards need no oracle. The ancients have learned to stand apart, to live without the firsts will guiding them. Venat's prison was a delay, not a solution. The oracle's immortality was a clock. Tick by tick, she counted the day the sundered would no longer need her. The warrior does not break the loop, he completes it. Her death is not an ending, it is a release. The first's memory finally free to dissolve. The shards no longer fragments but choices. The oracle's tragedy was never her duty, it was her obedience. To a god already gone, to a world that outgrew its creator, the light she carried was never endless. It was a fire waiting for the right wind to let it go. She does not return, she is rebound, each cycle a shattered echo, each prophecy a chain. The oracle of light is not reborn, is a wound that refuses to close. What if the so-called cycle of reincarnation is no cycle at all? A single unbroken scream split across centuries. Hydaelyn's final breath, trapped in a loop of its own making. The first's memory is not preserved, it is punished. Each new oracle is a cage, not a vessel. A mirror cracked from the sundering's first blow, they call it rebirth, it is a recursion. A god's last thought replayed until the edges fray. Why does she never die? Because death would be freedom. The oracle's so-called prophecies are not guidance. They are the same vision, fractured through different eyes. A prison with no walls, no exits. The light's final act was not to fadate, was to cling, and now she clings to a world that outgrew her. To a truth that cannot be unspoken, to a self split into infinity. What waits in the breaking of the loop, not salvation, not escape. The moment the first chose to become a memory. The oracle's visions are not cycles of rebirth, they are echoes in a vault, each prophecy a failed attempt to alter the first's last breath. Venat did not ascend, he bargained, a soul transfigured into a cradle for a dying star's final flicker. The oracle's endless recurrence is not a gift. It is a delay, a pause in the quiet death of a god who refused to vanish until her children could walk unlit. No seer's cry cracks this cage, no mortal hand unbars it. The light's final memory loops, unchanging in a prison with no walls. What waits in the breaking of the loop, not salvation, not escape, the moment the first chose to become a memory. The oracle is the last whisper of a god who became a question with no answer, a question with no end. The oracle does not wake, she does not sleep, she is a wound kept open, each prophecy is a stitch torn loose. Each timeline a failed attempt to answer the sundering's question, asterisk what if the light had chosen differently, asterisk first reflection was not a beginning. It was a recurrence, the warrior's choice shuntingly familiar, tragically uniquitio through iterations the oracle counts in fractured stars. Endwalker's climax, a bridge burned and rebuilt. The oracle kneels not as victor but as keeper of the scaffold. Her visions are not guidance, they are confession. Hydaelyn's memory, split into 1,000 what-ifs bleeds through the warrior, not a hero, a vessel, a witness to the god she could not be. The Dragonsong War's ash, the seventh umbral's shadowwall are footnotes in a story the oracle wrote and could not unwrite. Midaon's calculations, Selch's obsession, even the warrior's defiance are threads in a tapestry the oracle weaves to undo herself, but the loop has no end, only pauses. Only almost asterisk. When the warrior stands at dawn's edge, is it hope they feel or the oracle's final, unspoken regret? The cosmos does not forgive. It remembers, and the oracle, she is its memory, trapped, repeating. A god reduced to asking what if, over and over. Until even the stars tire of waiting for an answer. What if the oracle of light is not a prisoner? What if she is the final witness? A consciousness bound to recite the first's last breath until the stars forget his name. Venat's covenant did not shatter the light, it scattered its memory. Each reincarnation is a trial, not to escape but to remember, to speak the prophecy that could mend what was sundered. Could the Scions' wars be Venat's answer, a shield for the light's final spark? The oracle's loop is not failure, it is survival. The Scions' ledger is unfinished. What line will you write? 90. What if the oracle of light is not a prisoner? What if she is the final witness? A consciousness bound to recite the first's last breath until the stars forget his name. Venat's covenant did not shatter the light, it scattered its memory. Each reincarnation is a trial, not to escape but to remember, to speak the prophecy that could mend what was sundered. Could the Scions' wars be Venat's answer, a shield for the light's final spark? The oracle's loop is not failure,